Shishi Radha Madan Mohan, Shishi Lakshmi Nrsingadev, please empower us in our chanting today so that we may chant from our hearts the pure holy name. Thank you for considering our request. Om Tat Sat. Hare Krishna. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu taught that the main process for advancing in spiritual life is to chant the holy names of the Lord without offense. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur says that the main way to avoid offenses is to be fully aware of the presence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead in his holy name. It's not a material sound. It's not something that the intelligence, the buddhi, is interpreting from the environment and putting it into a category. There are material substances on all sides of us, and the intelligence, when it sees it, then first has a gross recognition of it, and then it puts it into a jati or a category, and then it says, this is this. But the holy name isn't from a material category. It's completely spiritual. Nama Chintamani Krishnas. Chaitanya Rasa Vigraha. Purna Shuddho Nitya Mukto Binatvan Nama Namino. And if we give our full attention to the holy name with reverence, as in some traditions, for instance, in the Jewish tradition, it's forbidden to say the name because it's understood that it's not possible to say the name without offense because of our offensive condition. However, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu teaches that actually the holy name is very merciful and descends for our benefit, but we also mustn't take it for granted. And not taking it for granted means that we give full attention to the chanting. And if we do that, then we'll find for ourselves what is called nambala, or strength that we get from the name. We'll understand even chanting in namabhasa, although we haven't realized the direct manifestation of Krishna in his name, we'll start to feel the effects of chanting and we'll get faith. In namaparadha, or chanting without attention, as would happen if, for instance, you called somebody to speak to them and they come over to you and then you turn your back on them and you get on your cell phone, how would they feel? So similarly, when we're chanting Hare Krishna, we're calling Krishna, please come, please help me. And when he comes, if I turn around and do something else with my mind, with my intelligence, or even physically, I turn the other way, I start fixing a curtain rod, then this is a kind of an offense. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur says this can actually lead this kind of chanting to atheism. Why? Because if I do that repeatedly, then I'll start to think that there is no actual manifestation of the holy name because I'm not experiencing it. I'm not getting nambala or strength. I'm not having any spurti or direct realization of the holy name. And then I'll start to commit the fifth offense and think that the holy name is imagination. That somebody just made it up. This is some made up philosophy. And then there's a series of other events he describes in which I try to justify the situation, and then people can even stop the process altogether and become lost again in the material whirlpool, drowned. So it's incumbent upon the sadhaka to take the process of chanting seriously, and seriously means to give the full attention when chanting. So that takes practice, because the mind is accustomed to taking shelter of distraction and finding pleasure in it, it actually feels some kind of perverse satisfaction in moving from one thing to the next. It's a kind of conditioning. Or it takes shelter in dullness or laya, where I feel my mind feels satisfaction in sleep, in a kind of thickness, darkness, in which I zone out from the variety of the world. And then when I wake up, I get back into the distracted state. So in order to come to the state of actually full focus on the holy name, ekagra, where I'm one-pointed, it takes a lot of practice and also a kind of, again and again, practicing simplicity of the mind, that I'm okay without being distracted, without going to other things. And I can simply focus on the chanting without going anywhere else. So this Japa Circle is meant to bring our energies together, all serious chanters, so we can feel the power of one-pointed attention and bringing our minds back to that satisfactory state of just being present for the holy name. The holy name is appearing. He's not a material substance. He's not some category from the material world. He's appearing as an avatar, a Nam avatar. And if we're simply present and even reverent towards the holy name in our mind as he's appearing, then we'll get the Nam Bala, the strength of the holy name. And without the Nam Bala, without the strength that we get from chanting Hare Krishna, we can't make advancement in spiritual life. We'll be overwhelmed. Daivahi esha gunamai, mama maya duratyaya. The strong waves of material existence will carry us away. So in this session, let us remember the presence of Krishna and his holy name as recognized by all religious traditions in the world, almost all, and especially in ours, that this is the most important of all activities. And we give ourselves permission to chant with one-pointed attention. Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol. We'll start by praying for the mercy of the Panchatattva. We'll say the Panchatattva Mahamantra 3 times, and then we'll chant undistractedly the Hare Krishna Mahamantra together. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhaktivinoda Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhaktivinoda Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhaktivinoda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare.
Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Krishna, 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 Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Krishna, 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 Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Krishna, 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 Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Krishna, 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 Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Ram, Hare Hare, Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhara, Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda. So in the Srimad Bhagavatam, Shukadeva Goswami points out that people have millions of things to talk about
in this world, but none of them are the holy name, and none of them are the lila or the instruction of Krishna. And millions of things to say. And you might have noticed that the holy name appears in various places. In the 6th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, Shukadeva Goswami mentions that if it comes up somewhere, like incidentally, in India, you see it a lot. There's the Hare Krishna motorcycle shop, or the tobacco shop, the Hare Rama Hare Krishna tobacco shop. The holy name is there, but you find it here, there, and everywhere, sort of piecemeal. And there's a potency to it, Shukadeva Goswami says, wherever the holy name appears. Also, in the 60s, George Harrison came out with a song, My Sweet Lord, and he put in the mantra. So a lot of people heard it, and then they became affected by it. But if you listen to the song, it only says Hare Krishna a couple times, the Maha Mantra. And then there's a lot of other mantras in there too, whatever they may be. And so for those whose heart has come to this decision that the only thing that I want to drink is the pure thing. I want the whole thing, not partially here, there, and everywhere. I don't want fragments. I want the pure stream. I want to drink it directly and all the time. So then japa is for you, because you can be there anywhere. And instead of taking a little bit from here, Krishna motorcycle shop, one mantra in the George Harrison Hare Krishna song, or a little bit here, a little bit there, in a little bit mixed in between many conversations, the holy name comes up. In the material world, it never comes up. You have a whole skyscraper building touching the sky, and on every floor, nobody's saying it. Everyone's talking about ad nauseum, strategic planning, how to make a new network, how to program something, but never does the holy name come up, except maybe incidentally. So if that makes you sick, then japa is for you, because you can decide, I'm sitting down here and I'm just going to say nothing but the holy name, because I understand that's the only thing to be had in the 14 worlds. That's what Bhaktivinoda Thakur's mood is. There's nothing else to be had. All those skyscraper buildings, everything going on all over the world, everyone talking. It's all nonsense. Vaikari Vak. It's all just useless speech, gramya katha. But then when we get the opportunity to lock ourselves in and only concentrate on the holy name, it has healing power. We feel that now we're back in the stream where we're meant to be as souls. We're directly connected with Krishna through this yoga of chanting the holy name of the Lord. So in order to get to that point takes a lot of practice, because the mind wants to jump back into the jibber jabber, the little baby monkey jumping here and there for no reason, just looking at everything, lifting it up, putting it back down, breaking a twig, chewing on the twig, jumping from the tree, going back in the tree, wrestling with its brothers and sisters. This is all the nonsense of the material world, but and the mind always doing that. So one has to go beyond that jibber jabber of the mind and find the flow of Hare Krishna. So that's why the practice of japa every day is so important, because if one can get the experience that I don't want to be anywhere else, I want to be in direct contact with Krishna, and it comes through this process of chanting Hare Krishna, then we get Nam Bala. We get the spiritual strength to move throughout the world and have enlightened interactions with all the things that we have to deal with in life the rest of the time. And another point is that according to our taste, as we may think, the mind may tell us, you don't have time for this japa, you have to hurry up. But when we cross over into absorption, then there's a sense that I don't have time for anything else. Everything else comes second. The holy name comes first, and everything else can fill in. And then Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Ananyas chintayantamam ye jana paripasite tesham nityadhyuktanam yogakshema mahamyam. If you start crossing over into ananyas chintayantamam, that you fully absorb in me, don't worry. He said, I'll make up for everything else. You don't have to worry about all these other things. He says, yogakshema mahamyam. If you're in a full samadhi, that this is all for Krishna, and I want to be in that flow, then Krishna says, I'll carry what you lack and I preserve what you have. And this is the great power of chanting the holy name. It's for those who have decided, I'm leaving the material world, I'm not part of the material world, and I'm going to reconnect to the spiritual world through this process of hearing the holy name and chanting it with my own tongue and lips. Om Tat Sat. Now let's see how many reflections, here are some reflections and questions.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
I was thinking about what you're speaking about, like the holy name and how seemingly irrelevant it is in the world today, and how like nobody's mentioning it. I was thinking about an experience I had. All of the devotees were at Diwali Mela, and we were doing book distribution, and they have this giant stage there, and for like hours and hours on end they were playing movie songs. And finally, when the entire festival was about to close down and all like half the people had left, finally one person went on stage and said Jai Shri Ram, and there was such a sigh of relief amongst devotees because we're like, finally someone noticed. And I was thinking about it, and I was thinking about how even though it is a celebration of Lord Ram, it's almost as if he's been neglected, and how people really need this knowledge of like the Diwali exists for a reason, and about what real knowledge is. And yeah, that's
Nice real life example. And that's the sadhakas start to gravitate towards the acharyas because they go, the acharyas are completely in the flow. I want to be with them. I don't want to be with the ones that just mention something as an afterthought or not at all. I want to be with those who are totally fully fixed all the time in the flow of the holy name. I think the order goes Manjula Kanta, then Ramakrishna, then Bhakti Edwin, then Sukeshwari. Manjula, you're up.
Hi, Krishna Guru Maharaj. Maharaj, I was thinking all week about this concept of distraction that you've been explaining and how we are so addicted to distraction. And today when I sat down to do japa with you, I heard you say, I'm okay going without, I'm okay going within. And I thought that is so true. And the thought came to me that when I try to go I have two kids and they both need my attention. And I remember this week my son said, don't ignore me. That's very mean. I'm talking to you. Don't ignore me. And I remembered the little boy you were talking about, the Guruji, and how you should ignore. And all these thoughts were in my mind. And I was thinking, I think that I feel obliged to listen to my distractions. I feel obliged to give them my attention. And I thought when I started the japa with the sankalpa, it's okay to go without these distractions. It's okay to let all the 5 little kids out the door and shut it. They're not going to die. They're not going to be, nothing's going to happen to them, but you can take this time for yourself. And I did get that time. I got that quiet silence. And I thought, this is so sweet. Maybe not the holy name. I'm not there yet, but just the quiet of being alone with the holy name was so nice. And I thought I needed to give myself permission to be alone without my distractions. And that was one step. I was very grateful that statement you gave me for Sankalpa today, that I'm okay going without. Thank you, Guru.
This is an important point because there's an ongoing conundrum about how much attention I need to give to my life, the life situation, and how much time I give to the holy name. So Bhagavatam answers and says that if you water the root of a tree, then all the leaves and branches become nourished automatically. And there's a way in which I'm always thinking, let me help everybody in the world. Let me help people in my family. Let me reorganize so that the world doesn't fall apart, because it's always falling apart. And I think my duty to fix it. You can't fix it, but you can fix your mind on the holy name. And if you do that, then you get nam bala. You get the power to deal with all situations in the correct way. And if you try to do it the other way, first I'll fix it, then I'll concentrate, you'll never get there. You have to start with, first I concentrate my mind on the holy name, then I'll have the power to deal with the world and actually to give real attention to the ones that need my attention, that I have a duty to give attention to. Ramakrishna.
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj.
Yeah, Hare Krishna.
Please accept my humble obeisance as Jai Maharaj, like I thank you for a very inspiring, enlivening lecture. It's very like chanting the holy name is very important. Like I was thinking, like my mind is very accustomed to dualities, like day, night, light, dark, like that. So, but the spiritual activities are very non-real, like chanting the holy name, everything. Thank you, Guru Maharaj.
Hare Krishna. Thank you for your appreciation for the spiritual process. Bhakta Edwin.
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj. All glory to Srila Prabhupada. I had a quick question. I've been thinking a lot about like the science of sound and how that affects people. And I was thinking about like how important is it for like to pronounce or the enunciation of these holy names, you know, because a lot of times you'll be in like Japa groups and, you know, sometimes you can't help but hear the other people chanting, and sometimes it's like almost impossible to actually hear the proper pronunciations of like the holy names. So I was hoping that maybe you could touch on how important it is to clearly speak these holy names during the chanting.
One thing that's helpful is if you record yourself chanting, because oftentimes I may be mispronouncing the holy name, and I'm not aware of it until I listen to myself. So get your smartphone, if it has a recording device on it, if it doesn't, get a refund, and just record yourself chanting one round of japa and listen to the whole thing and see how you yourself are chanting. And yes, it's important because it's part of the reverence I spoke of before. When you're chanting and you enunciate, you say the syllables of the holy name, it's one of the ways in which your mind comes to attention. And Prabhupada mentions this in his purports. He said, when you're chanting, you shouldn't make a hissing sound. You should actually use your tongue and lips and exercise them. They need to move, they need to work. And as you're working them to practice enunciating and saying the holy name, it's helping you to focus and also be more respectful to the holy name, not just slur. So don't worry about what other people are doing. Just worry about how you do it and set an example. And then also, it is important to enunciate. However, the Shastra does say if somebody accidentally mispronounces the holy name, or culturally they can't say it the way somebody in South India or North India says it, Krishna, Krishna. And in some cultures, they pronounce R like L, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Krishna. They can't help it. It's very difficult. They grew up that way. The tongue is trained that way. And so that's also effective because Krishna knows what they're saying. But if it's done out of neglect or laziness, or I'm not paying attention, therefore because I'm saying half the mantra or I'm slurring it, then that could be a problem for us because we're not actually paying attention. Thank you for your important question, Bhakti Edwin. Then we have Shreya and Shukeshri, and then we have to move on.
Mataji, you can go ahead. You were raising your hand first.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. I was just thinking that I have been, at least for 2021, I thought I should try to improve my quality of japa. So I was just trying to see how many mantras do I actually listen in an entire round. And I try to keep a tap of that, write down after my round. I was just thinking maybe in a whole mantra, sometimes I do 10 times, I'll actually listen to the mantra, maybe sometimes 15. And then I was just thinking, how do I increase the number of times I increase? I work, when I start the mantra, I say, pray Krishna, I should be able to listen. And then I don't even know how I just move away from after that 15 mantras, I go into all my stuff. And then I suddenly remember again. So I was just thinking that maybe I should keep some kind of a few seconds alarm or something like that, so I can remember, you know what, you have gone away, and then again come back. So any suggestions on that? Because I am making an attempt to make sure that I listen to every mantra. So I'm just actually not chanting 16 rounds. So I was just thinking in that sense, how do we really listen to every mantra? Is there any tip, Raj?
In the Gita, Krishna says you have to practice. When you're doing this, you have to keep bringing your mind back. And as within any practice, the more you do it, the better you'll get. And with japa, when we chant with taste, actually, when we hear something in the holy name that attracts us, then we'll have full concentration, ekagra. And then our mind will be fixed in one place because it's of interest to us. That's where we focus our attention, where we're interested and where the mind's habituated to go. So in the Gita, he says, wherever the mind wanders, you have to bring it back under the control of the self. And so this is yoga. It's the practice we do every day. You sit down, and the mind is there's 5 states of mind. Patanjali explains how the mind is wandering, it's dull, it's divided in different places, moving from here, it's sleepy, and it's also either fixed for some time and then it goes away, and then, or samadhi, or it's fully fixed. It's got absolute absorption. And so the 3 states of mind of sleep, wandering, and distraction are not yoga. They're actually a kind of conditioned mind that's just carried away by the modes of material nature. So we have to practice coming to ekagra, which means that we're fully fixed and that takes practice. If you don't practice it, you can't fix your mind in one place, because the mind is an instrument. And however we let it go during the day, that's how it's going to go during the night. However we let it go during our lifetime, that's how it's going to go at the time of death. And so really this japa is your main opportunity to see how much I can practice coming back, coming back, coming back. And as one practices and as one gets taste, the more the chanter can actually experience this total fixity on the holy name and coming to ekagra. It's one-pointed, it's not distracted. So practice, practice, practice. That's the point Krishna makes, and that's why we do it every day, a fixed number of rounds, at least this many. Thank you very much, Shukeshwari. And for the close, we have Bhakti and Shreya.
Hare Krishna Gurudev. So I find so much beauty in how Krishna just wants our sincerity, because there's nothing more we can offer him except like our tears and our sincere desire to want to love him. But sometimes when I chant, I feel that I am being sincere, but at the same time, I'm not really doing it justice, in the sense that the sincerity might last 1 or 2 rounds, but then at the end of my 16, like the worst feeling is that I didn't feel like I even chanted. Like I didn't even, it wasn't the holy name that I was chanting. And it just makes me question if my best is really my best. And I feel like, is like my mind convincing me that it's my best, or is it really my best? I think I get to like overthinking and then like analyze too much. So if you could just like shed some light on being satisfied with your best effort, and also like knowing what your best effort is, even though the result isn't like ideal, even though like you put in your best.
Sure. We have to keep a long-range vision, what the ultimate goal is, and realize how far away we are. But at the same time, we have to appreciate what we're doing right now, and that we're able to get something. And if we become too discouraged that I'm so far away, I can never get there, then we may slacken our approach. Say, what's the use? And some people say that, oh, I'll never get there. It's too lofty. I can't do anything. So there are many statements given in the Shastra about the power of chanting the holy name. And remember that even if you're not getting full taste, if you're sincerely trying, and this is something that Thakur Haridas says, if you're sincerely trying to focus and trying to chant the holy name with reverence, even if your mind's not cooperating at certain times, he said, you're getting so much benefit that you can't get more benefit if you study all the Vedas, if you practice every kind of yoga, if you do every kind of sacrifice in the world prescribed by the Vedas. It doesn't compare to a little bit of namabhas. the indirect light that's getting through, that's helping you to strengthen. So keep in mind that the very practice itself is praiseworthy. And we have to be a little hard on ourselves, but not so hard that we say, okay, I can't do anything, I give up. So if you can get one little thing each time you go to the ocean of the holy name and get one, pray for one little jewel. If I can hear one mantra, oh, I heard that and I leaned into it, then put it in your bag of jewels and keep collecting them. And one day we'll have enough capital in there that you can find yourself spiritually wealthy. We will come to that point by the power of the practice. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much, everybody, for joining Make Japa Great Again and the International Japa Circle. And I will see you in about 16 minutes to continue the Krishna Katha. Vanchagopadruvascha kripasinabhe vachapatitanam pavanibhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namo anantakoti vaishnaviniki jai gaur prem anande hari hari bo. Nambala.